So we'll just yeah, go ahead and get things started if it's all right with you guys.
Great, go ahead.
All right. So yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for being with us tonight for our webinar on safe travel this summer. So yeah, the world is slowly starting to open up again, and as we approach the summer and as vaccination rates are picking up a little bit again, we thought we'd give you guys some tips and tricks on how to stay healthy in the warmer months ahead. Yeah, just a quick mention, we are going to be recording and putting this up on YouTube. So just in case,
slower if you can.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, we're going to be putting this up on YouTube. So if you guys miss anything during the presentation, you will be able to see it when we put that up. Yeah, so I'm Juliana, as I said, from JoinMyTrip, and I'm your host tonight, but I will also be having help from our other host, Alex.
Hi guys, I'm Alex. Some of you might already know me. And yes, I am looking forward to sharing some super helpful tips, hopefully super helpful, that maybe some of them you have already heard, but hopefully, of course, we will be giving you some new information as well. But yeah, just before we get started, let's look at some house rules. Please keep yourself muted during the webinar because it gets a little bit difficult when, of course, a lot of people want to speak at the same time. If you don't know where the muted button is, it's usually on the left side in the bottom corner of your Zoom screen. So yeah, if you could just click that and mute yourself, that would be amazing. Don't worry, you will have the possibility to ask questions and yeah, get a bit of a chat going at the end. But yeah, during our presentation, it would be amazing if you could stay quiet and use the chat respectfully. But of course, we also have the option of you reacting. So there are little reaction buttons. There's a little emoji also at the bottom of your screen and your Zoom screen, and you can use that. So for example, I will send a reaction right now, and if you want, you can react as well. And yeah, if you just feel like it, you can react as we go along. And that was it.
So for the ones of you that are new with us, we'd first like to introduce you to our company. So JoinMyTrip, we are a, we're a travel company. And have you ever been faced with the challenge of wanting to go like on a specific trip and you were super excited and couldn't wait to start planning, but then you couldn't find anyone to go with you because maybe they didn't like the trip or the destination, and you ended up just not going at all? So we realized that a lot of people have been facing this challenge, and that's why we created the platform JoinMyTrip. So this platform is a place where we connect trip leaders and trip mates. Trip leaders are the ones that are like organizing and planning the trips. They can publish their travel plans on our platform, and interested trip mates can request to join their adventure. And as a trip leader, you're also able to make a bit of money as you travel, which is pretty cool. So overall, yeah, when there's a trip on the platform, people are interested. You can chat a bit and get to know each other initially, and you can decide if you want to travel together. And on the trip, you can share all travel costs, experiences, and you can come home with some new friends.
So yes, really, whatever your budget, wherever you want to go, whatever type of travel activity. So maybe you're the sort of hiking type, maybe you're the chilling at the pool type. There's so many different options and opportunities. So we are sure that if you check out the platform, you will be able to find whatever you're looking for. But of course, if you don't, you can also join. You can also create your own trip. So currently, our community is really, really big. 140,000 members, but of course we're ever growing, and we just want to be and remain the biggest community of trustworthy travelers.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we're putting all these webinars together. We're such a diverse community at the moment of travelers interested in connecting and getting to know the world a bit more. And we want to make sure that we give you guys the proper information and motivation to get out there and explore a bit. So yeah, to start things off, we're just going to be quickly posting a quick poll to get an idea where everyone's joining us from today. So if Alex or someone can, or I can do it as well. Yeah, there we go. So you should see it pop up there. All right.
Wow, lots of people from the US.
Yeah.
Out.
Mhm.
We like to travel.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So it's a good overview there. Yeah, we've got groups in a lot of places. So I was just trying to see who's joining us today. But yeah, mostly from the States and Canada. So that's cool. A bit from Germany, a bit from the UK. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So yeah. There you go. If you want to see the results. All right. So on to planning. We're going to be talking about all the ways that you should be thinking about, all the things that you should be thinking about while you're planning your trip. Unlike in previous times, there's going to be just a little bit more research necessary to make sure that you cover all of your bases and that your trip and homecoming goes smoothly, but it will be well worth it. So, so the first thing to be thinking about are vaccinations. This one is important to keep in mind as the latest information and developments will be kind of changing daily.
Yeah, so one question, of course, a lot of people have going into planning is, do I need to be vaccinated to be let into the country that I want to travel to? Honestly, of course, this answer will just depend on the location, as every country's entry requirement will be a bit different. But several countries have already pledged to be completely open for tourists who have proof of vaccination, and this is likely to increase over the coming months.
Yeah, that's definitely good news. Additionally, though, there are many locations that are only requiring a negative COVID test to enter, and they don't require mandatory quarantine for healthy visitors as long as you've tested negative. So if you can orient your travel plans towards those locations, it should be a bit easier and you should have no issues. But yeah, overall, if you can get vaccinated before traveling, it will just mean you have a bit more peace of mind and options for places you can travel to. So yeah, you will be able to check the eligibility through your government's website.
So after you've given that some thought, and the next consideration will be sort of keeping in mind the current regulations, both in your originating destination and in the destination that you want to go to. So this can, of course, seem a little bit overwhelming because we're constantly being bombarded by news and of course, ever-changing news and notifications. And yeah, so it is a little bit overwhelming, but the best place to start from the most up-to-date news and regulations is always to check your official government website. There you should find the latest information about what the current situation is in your home country, but of course also in the into the country where you're going to, and you can trust for that information to be accurate.
Yeah, so there are like 4 main things that you should be looking for when you're looking to check the regulations when you're traveling. So the first would be if you can travel to the location you're looking at all. So like, there's some locations that are open for travel, but you have to make sure that your origin country or your origin region is allowed to go there, because there's some that allow from some regions and not from others. 2, what their testing and quarantine requirements are. So almost all locations will require like a some kind of test, but it could be that they don't accept a quick test and only PCR, or it's a 48-hour requirement versus a 72-hour requirement. So you just have to make sure that you check that. 3, what their local rules are. So sometimes the state or even just the town or the city might have slightly different rules than the overall country. So it's good to check that out as well. And 4, what the rules are for when you come back to your home region. So when you're coming back, you have to understand, like, if you need extra quarantine time, if you need to take extra time off of work, if that's necessary when you come back. So that's important to check out. In general, for testing though, it's good to know what they require so you can book ahead of time. Just always double check before you travel. Things are moving so quickly nowadays, and certain regulations might actually have shifted by the time you board the plane. So we actually do have a news ticker on our website with some up-to-date information regarding the latest news in all things COVID and travel. So we'll just post that here in the chat for your quick reference. Alex, you can post for us.
Yes, I think I believe our colleague Anna will be actually taking care of the links after.
Already posted in the chat.
Awesome, perfect.
Perfect. I think it's lost a little bit in all the chat that is going on, which is nice to see.
Awesome. All right, so you guys already know the whole things about masks and distancing and hand washing, so I'm not going to go over that. The only thing I'll quickly mention is like that certain airlines actually prohibit those masks with like the plastic valves and vents in the center because they're a little bit less effective. So honestly, it's just best to overall avoid those types of masks. In addition, in certain areas, like in Germany at the moment, they require surgical or FFP2 masks when you're in like transit and in shops. So not just the normal cloth masks. So you'd have to just make sure that you check wherever you're going if they only allow cloth masks or just double check.
Yes, so enough of masks that you've probably heard 1,000 times. On to the next consideration, which is super important, insurance. So insurance is, of course, a worry for a lot of people while traveling, because you don't know if your flight's going to get cancelled tomorrow, or the destination that you're meant to be traveling to is going to close their borders. These are very, very uncertain times, as we've all heard plenty of times in the last year. But yeah, a lot of countries are actually sort of saying that, okay, you can only travel, you can only arrive if you have insurance. Or, for example, they are actually offering a sort of COVID travel insurance that can cover you in case of cancellations or illnesses.
Yeah, so exactly. There are a few different providers of this, and some countries like Portugal at the moment are actually offering state coverage while traveling. But yeah, I'll pretty much cover the same thing. So potential cancellation costs due to like a COVID outbreak in the area or in yourself, and as well as any potential medical bills that you might get while you're on your trip. Yeah, so for those of you who are in Germany and Austria, if you'd like to travel through JoinMyTrip, we currently partner with Allianz to offer full travel insurance, which includes COVID coverage. We are working at the moment to have that as well for our international users. So hopefully that'll be soon.
Yes, and if you'd like to check out some more, there is some more info in the link in the chat.
So on to the fun part, picking where to go. So picking a location to travel will be largely dependent, of course, on the regulations of the region. So just keep in mind those, as we said before. Also, in general, it's good to think about what types of activities would be available in the locations that you might like to go to. Your best options would probably be to focus on locations that have lots of, beautiful nature and offer options for ecotourism or outdoor sports and exploration, just anything that gets you outdoors.
Yes, and if you're someone that is working or studying at home, which of course is most of us at the moment, we at JoinMyTrip, for example, are all working from home and have been for a while now. But of course, maybe that might give you the opportunity to consider a different location where you can do a co-working or co-learning trip.
So to go over a bit of what that is, in essence, you can get some other people together and book a nice location to work or study together during the daytime, and you can explore during your free time, like during lunch or in the evenings or weekends. This would allow you to keep your COVID-safe bubble and also allow you to get out and explore a bit and enjoy a beautiful location without having to take, extra holiday leave.
Yes, our colleague Anna, who's been posting the links, she's actually on a co-working trip right now in Canary Islands, sorry. And yeah, she is enjoying her time, and here's some photos that you can see from her trip. And yeah, she's having the best time. If you want to follow some more info, have a look on our social media and get a little bit jealous, as we have been, because it looks absolutely fabulous working in the day, but then of course exploring in the evening or on the weekends. And just a little side note, for those of you who are on Clubhouse, Anna will be hosting a webinar this Thursday, actually, with some more information about how you can try co-working out for yourself. So here's the link in the chat if you would like to sign up, if you want to have a look at it and find out a little bit more about what co-working actually is.
Yeah. So that kind of brings us to our next topic of groups. So when traveling with a group of people through JoinMyTrip or otherwise, as long as you communicate by outlining and adhering to expectations regarding COVID safety, you really should have no problems. Even if you'd like to travel with people not, from your household or new travel buddies, you haven't met in person, maybe you've met online somehow. Really just having clear communication and sticking to your rules, not going out and meeting other people and potentially, having contacts that could give you an infection, just, getting tested, going on the trip and sticking together. Yeah, you can have a fun and sociable trip while keeping safe.
Yes, and now that we've gotten the planning stage out of the way, we would like to give you some more advice on how you can actually get there to wherever you want to go, and what to do when you get there. So by arming yourself with all the necessary information, it'll be super easy to have fun and have an exciting time, but also stay healthy, of course, which is, of course, always the number one priority. So let's have a look. So as far as the whole sort of getting there part goes, the first option, and of course the safest, would be driving by yourself. Of course, this is not always possible, because if you choose a location that is a little bit further away from where you are, this can get very difficult very quickly. But maybe if you're, for example, already at your destination that you've traveled to, that is your goal destination, then renting a car and going on road trips and having a car for your group and getting around in that car would be super safe, but also, of course, very fun. The next safest option would be the trains. So if you can, for example, the train provider Deutsche Bahn in Germany offers these little sort of cabins, private cabins, for not even that much more money than a normal ticket, which would, of course, be ideal for you and your group, because it would mean that you would be safe in your little cabin, and yeah, you can split the cost, which is, of course, always very the added extra as well. The last, of course, option that I know a lot of you will choose is the plane, because of course it is the way of getting to the far away destinations that a lot of people and a lot of us want to go to, of course, which of course we want to keep as safe as possible while being on the plane, which of course at the moment means that keeping to all the rules and regulations, but also checking the airline specific rules and regulations before booking, because some might actually have different testing regulations, different mask regulations, different regulations about vaccinations, etc. So it is super important to keep informed about each airline and just making sure that you know exactly what they are expecting of you.
Yeah, also with airlines, it's a good tip to make sure you look up the rules around layovers. If you're taking a flight and it has a layover in a certain country, you have to just make sure that that's allowed. Airlines can be a bit lazy and they can allow you to book certain layover flights even if they're not allowed. This actually happened to a friend of mine. She was flying from Germany to El Salvador, and she was having a flight that routed through the US, and she had her bags packed and she was at the airport, and they just said, you can't fly today, you can't go. And she's, why not? I mean, and then they told her that it wasn't allowed. And even though they let her book the ticket, she went through the whole process, but they just told her at the airport. So yeah, just make sure you check ahead of time, because yeah, it's not fun. Yeah, but in general, the basic advice for plane travel would be keep the AC on, wipe down surfaces, masks, all of that. And just try and keep as much distance as you can from fellow passengers, especially when getting off and on the plane. So yeah, and on to the next one, accommodation. When picking accommodation, there are a few things to consider. At the moment, we're not currently recommending things like hostels or just anything that puts you close to a lot of other people. The best thing would be to go with something like an Airbnb, something more private. You can have kind of an honest conversation with your host about their COVID safety protocols. And a quick tip for you is to see if you can get in writing that if there's a cancellation due to COVID, that you can get your money back, because Airbnb will honor those written agreements if you do them ahead of time.
So yes, actually one thing I also love about Airbnb is that they have no contact check-ins, which will make the whole process of getting to your Airbnb a lot simpler and safer for you and your group. So in any case, whenever you're booking, try and make sure that any place that you book has a clear and accessible cleanliness plan regarding COVID. And yeah, you can also always ask your host about this. They will always be willing to share that with you. And again, check out the individual regulations on their website, on each of the accommodation providers' website to check out a little bit more and make sure that you are informed. Next up, we have our activities. So what can I do during COVID? So yes, as we all know, unfortunately, large crowded areas should be avoided if possible. So actually, I mean, cultural events, festivals, big crowded events are usually some of my favorite places to be at. I mean, festivals 2021 was actually my big plan, but I don't think that will be happening anytime soon, at least in Germany. But yeah, the idea here is to, of course, you have to have fun. You're on a trip, you're with your friends, you're in a great group. But again, these are special times, so you do have to adapt a little bit. So I mean, there's still plenty of things that you can do, plenty of things you can see, while sort of keeping your self safe. Lots of S's in that sentence. So for example, some suggestions would be hiking and biking trips. So of course also camping, so anything really that is outdoors in nature, that is getting you a little bit of fresh air, where you can also keep distance to other people and other groups, but also you know it offers you a lot of fun things, so you can still explore islands or wherever you are, and really get in tune with nature, which is of course always a super fun part of traveling as well. And also you can get that cheeky lovely photo for Instagram, even though it's outside, and you have an amazing time, even in COVID times.
Yeah, also any kind of like outdoor water activity like surfing, sailing, kayaking, they're all great ideas and lots of fun, especially in the summer months. Usually my favorite thing to do while traveling is strolling through museums and seeing kind of the history of a place. I think a good way for those of you who enjoy more historical tourism like myself would be to check out areas where you can see a lot of ruins or historical sites that have a lot of open air space, as long as you can keep distance from other tourists and kind of stick to your group. This should be perfectly safe.
Yes, and we'll highlight one little activity that is close to our hearts for sure. That is wild camping. So wild camping is such a cool activity, which is of course also safe, because you're not in a hostel dorm with 20 other people. You're in your own little tent with your group members, and you're in the outside and in nature, which is of course amazing. So especially Nordic countries are really big on this, but also Estonia, parts of Spain, Poland, and actually many parts of the US as well. They are allowing wild camping in many areas. So if you are able to travel to these locations, wild camping would definitely be a top tip for us at the moment.
So just to make a quick trip highlight as well. So through JoinMyTrip, our trip leader, Christian, has actually put together a really cool trip with some wild camping around the Midsommar festival in Sweden this summer. We'll post a link now if you guys might be interested or might want to see what a trip like that might be like. It'll be between the 18th and the 27th of June. So, yeah. And
some great news as well, apart from joining the trip. If you'd like to have a little bit more inspiration about the types of activities you can do up north, we'll be having a Finland travel inspiration webinar on April the 14th. So we'll be taking you around the country and give you some tips on how to get the most out of your vacation. We'll post the link here for anyone who might like to join.
Awesome. Okay, so now that you guys are all set to start exploring, we thought we'd give you guys some recommendations for some easy to travel to locations this summer, and some of the exciting and more COVID-safe activities that you can do while you're there. For all of these, we'll also give you the current testing requirements so you can have an idea of what to expect and plan ahead.
So first up, a JoinMyTrip favorite, I would say, is Portugal, Madeira in particular. So Madeira has some of the lowest rates of COVID in Europe and offers a plethora of hiking, cycling, surfing, and all kinds of beach-related activities. Portugal is actually also one of the first countries to offer state COVID insurance, which is, of course, amazing. And currently, there is no quarantine requirement if you have a negative COVID test within the last 72 hours of departure, and if you have completed an entry form, which is a must. And also, masks are not required for any of the outside activities, which in other countries it is, which is, of course, a little bit easier on the breathing and being a little bit more free.
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys are interested in Madeira, we have another trip highlight for you. Our trip leader, Fabian, is actually doing a CoWorking trip from April to May of this year. So it would involve 2 weeks of CoWorking at a really nice villa and lots of different activities planned for when you have some free time. So we'll just post the link in the chat for if you're interested in that, and you can check that out. So next up for our members in the US at the moment is Alaska. Our activity recommendations would be things like kayaking, rafting, fishing, hiking, and maybe staying at like a wilderness lodge. So for US citizens, Alaska advises to fill out a passenger locator form and complete a negative COVID entry test. But yeah, no quarantine requirements if that's all good and you feel healthy. So yeah.
Yes, and our trip leader, Katarina, is hosting a 2-week road trip through Alaska from the 28th of August until September the 14th. So have a look at her trip, which looks super, super cool.
Yeah, so we'll just post that in the chat real quick if you're interested. Also, by the way, if you are interested in learning a bit more about how to plan trips like our trip leaders, we're going to have another webinar. So that will be 2 weeks from now on Wednesday, April 7th. So yeah, that will be also posted in the chat if you're interested.
Lots of links in the chat tonight.
Lots of links. All right.
Next up, we have Hawaii. So for our US members, Hawaii is a fantastic option for this summer, particularly the Big Island. So recommended activities here are include strolling the ancient lava tube, snorkeling, surfing, scuba diving, or even taking an ATV tour. So Hawaii requires the standard negative COVID test results and the form to enter for US citizens. However, they are only allowed tests from certain providers, so make sure you check that beforehand. But we will also post a link for your reference in case you guys are interested.
All right, next up is Mexico. This one was open for both people from Europe and the US if you're interested in visiting. Activities include the usual, hiking and water related things, but as well checking out the Aztec or Mayan ruins, swimming in a cenote or kayaking. You have the usual negative testing recommendations as before and a health questionnaire to fill out. Otherwise, again, no quarantine for those who have a negative test and don't have any symptoms. So another trip highlight for you. Our trip leader, Tanya, has got up one from the 17th to the 30th of May of this year. And she's going to be exploring the nature and culture around Puebla, Mexico City, and some other parts around central Mexico. So she'll take you through some natural landscapes and some ancient ruins as well. So if you're interested, we will post that one in the chat as well.
And our final pick of tonight is Greece. So again, Greece has been a big favorite on the JoinMyTrip platform, especially last year. Again, lots of beach and hiking activities, exploring ruins, islands, and lots of opportunities for outdoor dining, because restaurants are set to open again from April onwards. Also, there's no quarantine requirement as before, and entry from EU states is allowed. So vaccinated travelers will not require a test at all. And the normal 72-hour testing requirement is here as well. And the passenger locator form, which is very easy to fill out. Currently, there is a national curfew from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., but keep up to date because this is very likely to change as we go into summer. And finally, we have a little quick highlight again for one of our amazing trips. So one of our trip leaders that has offered a lot of trips in the past. This one is for a 4-day mountain hike in Greece from May 3rd to May 6th. So yeah, the itinerary looks absolutely amazing. So make sure to go and check it out if Greece is for you.
All right, guys, we are nearing the end, and we'd like to leave you with some key things to consider going forward in your trip planning. First is to keep updated. Honestly, the more information you have and the more up-to-date information you have, the better prepared you will be to handle whatever comes ahead. Second is just follow the rules. Yeah, it can be annoying because everything has been changing a bit quickly nowadays, but yeah, as long as you just stick to what's being recommended, you won't have any hiccups and everything should go fine. Finally, just have fun. It's been a very stressful last year for all of us, and I think as long as you keep safe and just keep to everything, like you can just relax and have a really nice summer holiday. So yeah,
definitely. And last but not least, one more recommendation for you guys. So that is for the travel inspiration webinar on Cuba. So yeah, if Finland is not your thing, maybe Cuba is. So have a look at this webinar, which is happening on March 31st, which is next week, at 7:30 p.m. And yeah, it's again showing you the best spots, activities, tips and tricks. And yeah, go and check it out. We have added the link to the chat as well.
Yeah, if you guys, yeah, thank you guys so much for coming and joining our webinar. If you'd like to give us a bit of feedback, we will post a link in the chat for a little feedback form. And yeah, it'll just help us give us a better idea of how we can, yeah, craft our webinars a bit better for you guys in the future and see what kind of content that you guys might like to see or learn a bit more about. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining, and yeah, we'll see you next time, hopefully, if you, yeah, if you'd like to join again.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, keep up to date on social media if you want to. We would love to see you and hear you there. And yeah, have a lovely evening.
Yeah.